Join me as I take on the challenge of exploring Rome like a local, avoiding the crowds and discovering hidden gems that most tourists miss. Rome, the Eternal City, is a place where ancient history meets vibrant culture, and it's a destination that's on every traveler's bucket list. But let's be real, visiting Rome can be overwhelming, especially when you're stuck in a sea of tourists trying to get that perfect selfie in front of the Trevi Fountain. The reality is, popular tourist spots in Rome can be incredibly crowded, and it's hard to fully appreciate the beauty of the city when you're surrounded by screaming tourists and pushy vendors. The Colosseum, the Pantheon, and the Vatican City are all must-see attractions, but they're also the most crowded places in Rome. That's why it's so important to know how to navigate the city like a local, and avoid the crowds that can detract from your overall experience. Imagine waiting in line for hours to get into the Vatican museums, only to be squished into a crowded room with hundreds of other tourists. It's not exactly the most enjoyable experience, and it can be frustrating when you're trying to take in the stunning artwork and architecture. Or what about trying to take a romantic stroll through the Piazza Navona, only to be surrounded by screaming school groups and aggressive street performers? It's not exactly the Rome experience you had in mind, is it? But don't worry, I'm here to help you avoid all of that, and show you how to experience Rome like a true local. With a little planning and insider knowledge, you can skip the crowds and discover the hidden gems of Rome that most tourists miss. So, what's the secret to avoiding crowds in Rome? Well, it all starts with planning your itinerary strategically. Instead of trying to cram all of the popular tourist attractions into one day, space them out over the course of your trip, and consider visiting them during off-peak hours. For example, visit the Colosseum early in the morning, or later in the evening when the sun begins to set. Not only will you avoid the crowds, but you'll also get some amazing photos. Another tip is to explore lesser-known areas of Rome, like the charming neighborhood of Trastevere or the ancient ruins of Ostia Antica. These areas are just as beautiful and fascinating as the more popular tourist spots, but they're much less crowded. And if you're looking for a more authentic dining experience, skip the touristy restaurants and head to a local trattoria instead. But my number one tip for avoiding crowds in Rome is to take advantage of the city's many hidden passageways and side streets. Instead of walking down the main road, take a detour through a quiet alleyway or a picturesque piazza. Not only will you avoid the crowds, but you'll also stumble upon some amazing hidden gems like secret gardens, ancient fountains, and quaint little shops. By taking advantage of these insider tips, you can experience Rome like a true local, and avoid the crowds that can detract from your overall experience. Trust me, it makes all the difference, and you'll be glad you took the time to plan your trip strategically. To recap, the key to avoiding crowds in Rome is to plan your itinerary strategically, explore lesser-known areas of the city, and take advantage of the many hidden passageways and side streets. By following these tips, you can experience the beauty and magic of Rome without the frustration and chaos of the crowds. Thanks for watching, and if you've got any tips or stories about visiting Rome, leave them in the comments below. And don't forget to check out my next video on hidden gems in Rome. You won't want to miss it.